Tabitha Bennett from the AWS On Air executive producer. You are?
I'm Alana Kelton with AWS Launch Marketing Team.
And you brought yourself another friend. You went out there and grabbed another friend. And who is our friend? Introduce yourself, friend.
So my name is Sean Farrell. I've been working at AWS for 2 years, and I work on the DynamoDB team as a specialist solution architect.
Now, what is DynamoDB? Do tell.
So DynamoDB, it's a NoSQL database. It's fast and flexible, and it can give you single-digit millisecond response times. So very fast, very flexible, used in a lot of applications around Amazon. It's used in the retail store, so driving Amazon.com, capable of doing millions of reads and writes per second.
Nice. I particularly like the NoSQL because I think that, first of all, takes enough time off of your schedule to do the coding. But then, you know, you're moving it very fast and very sleek. And I think that's really kind of cool. So what are some of your use cases that you see people use DynamoDB with?
Well, like I mentioned, Amazon.com is a retail store, so you might use it for a shopping cart. You might use it for a messaging system. Anything that is OLTP in nature, so online transactional processing, is normally a good fit for DynamoDB, especially if you know your access patterns up front. It's really good for optimizing for a specific mission-critical application.
Nice. Now, going back to Amazon DynamoDB, they have global tables. What is that used for by customers, and why does that matter?
So with global tables, it's very easy to add a replica of your table that you may have in a single region, and then add that to a second region. So you may want to move your data closer to the users so that they can have a really responsive experience when accessing the data.
That sounds like a thing that we've had a theme of today. Moving it to the users, self-service, making it easy. Continue. This is all great.
Yeah, and you get the resilience benefit as well. So with a single region, we're storing your data 3 times, 3 copies of the data across availability zones. So with another region, we're doing that again. So it's a total of 6 copies of the data. Because of that, we can offer a SLA, availability SLA of 5 nines of availability, which is essentially 5 minutes of downtime per year, and we still obviously exceed that most of the time. So with a single region table, you would get 4 nines of availability, but you get 5 nines of availability for a global table. Nice.
And I understand that DynamoDB has different write modes for multi-region strategy. How should one work with that?
Yeah, let me just bring up a slide here.
We love slides.
Might be helpful to visualize this.
Yes, visualizing is great.
So by default, it's an active-active system, which means you can write to any of the tables, you know, be that in your kind of source region or the replica region. So it's active-active. You can just write, and they're going to converge to the right state. And that's going to be, that convergence is based on a last writer wins algorithm. Okay, so they're going to compare timestamps, and the last writer will win, and the state will converge based on that basis. So that's the default, active-active. We can also call that no primary, because nothing is a primary. Everything is active, right?
Nice.
But we may choose to restrict that down to a single primary so that we don't have any update conflicts, which are going to be resolved by that last writer wins algorithm, but perhaps we don't want that in all circumstances. So this is where the different write modes come in. You know, we can design and architect our system to actually designate a single primary, and we'll only write to that single primary region. Okay, so that's one of the options we can do with the write modes, and we can avoid the conflicts in that way. And we've also got an approach called mixed primary, where we still write to the different regions, but we only write a subset of the data to those particular regions, also known as region pinning. So getting into the weeds a little bit might be helpful to visualize. So here, this is the no primary. We can see that the users at the bottom of this slide here, they can read and write to region A or region B. Now, you're going to probably want to read and write from your local region anyway, right? Because that's going to give you the fastest response times. But you're absolutely free to read and write from any region. So this is the no primary approach that we've talked about.
Nice.
Okay. So just got 3 of these approaches. This is the single primary. So we're only going to write to a single region here. So we're going to write to region A. You can see the users at the bottom there, always writing to region A. So we might still read from region B. So in that case, we're treating it a bit like a read replica, right?
Right.
Or maybe we don't read from it either, and it's just a warm standby. So even within this approach, there's different options, right? But this is what we call the single primary, okay? So the mixed primary, this is where we try and get the best of both worlds.
Nice.
We want to be able to write to both regions, region A and region B, but we also want to avoid conflicts, okay? And this is where we only write a subset of the data to a particular region. We pin that to a particular region. So we're able to get the best of both worlds. We avoid conflicts.
So would that be something like, you have a corporate headquarters in, let's say, New York, and you have a place here in London, and you have a place in, let's say, Paris, and you only want the London database to update to London customers because, maybe there's some kind of rule. Is that what you're meaning? Is that would just update that area and everything else is kind of left nice and untouched?
Yeah, yes, that could be a basis to do the region pinning based on users and where they're located. That would totally make sense. Yep.
As far as like how a customer or user decides what option is the best for them, what kind of guidance do they get for that?
So when you're building out your architecture, you mean? Yeah, so we have prescriptive guidance now published, which is really the basis of the presentation I have here today. So we can provide a link to that, and they can go into some more depth about all of this. But yeah, it's best to probably follow that guidance. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build out our documentation to really offer more support to customers as they're building out their multi-region architecture.
So it becomes more of a self-service, like follow along. This is my need. This is my need. All the documentation is there, and they just need to explore that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Continuing on.
Okay, so probably the next area to talk about is how do we actually route these users to the particular region. So we've got 2 options really to think about this. Either we can do this decision making at the DNS level, so we can provide a domain name and then a service such as Route 53 can provide us back a address to take them to their local region normally, right? So we could have a latency-based policy or a geolocation-based policy within Route 53, and then that's going to route them to the region that's going to give them the best experience, the lowest latency.
Nice.
So that's a nice way to do it at DNS level.
Yeah.
If we've got more of a complex example, we might want to make that decision in the application stack somewhere. So in this case here, we're actually making that decision in the compute layer. So we can maintain ourselves some global state about which is the active region, which is the primary, where are we writing? We only want to write to a single primary, we've decided, because we're avoiding those conflicts, right? So we have to maintain that state ourselves. Then when we go to write the data, we check it, and it can say, am I the primary? Should I write here? Or do I want to forward it to another region? Okay.
Nice.
So doing this logic in the compute layer can give you a bit more flexibility. And indeed, a customer, Vanguard, created a system called Ghost, which follows the sun. So they've got offices in the UK, in the EU, and Australia, and they're constantly changing their primary so that they can get that fast local read and write performance.
While people are awake.
Yeah, or while they're in the office, during the office hours. And so I definitely recommend checking out that talk. We can drop a link. It was a 2022 reInvent talk about multi-region architectures. But this kind of is a way that you could go about architecting a system like that.
Now we're kind of unfortunately getting there on time, but do you have a demo for us? Something you want to show the people how to even just to get started?
Yeah, so we've got this workshop actually, which
Nice.
we can give the links for.
Yes.
So this is going to create a stack, a serverless stack, like I've got in my
Nice.
demo here. We can use DynamoDB. Obviously, that's serverless, great serverless option. We can use Lambda, that's serverless, and we can use API gateway. So a fully serverless stack,
Nice.
and we can operate in multiple regions. So if you follow that workshop here,
Yes.
that is going to create a front end for you where you can ping different regions.
Nice. And everybody, just so you know, we are dropping that link in chat, so that way you can go and try it yourself, get used to it, play with it, do what you want to, get it spun up.
Yeah, so as you can see, when I ping the different endpoints, it's going to be a quicker response from Europe than it is from
Nice.
from the US, right? So I can do a get item as well on my DynamoDB table, and that is going to retrieve some items from the database. So these are, in this case, they're bookmarks for how far have I watched through a film. And actually, Disney has this use case, and they use DynamoDB for this purpose. So
Smart.
if you're watching a film, you don't have to go back to the start each time, but it will remember, you're
Where you
1,000
stopped off?
seconds
Yeah.
through.
I just did that
Yeah.
the other day. I'm like, thank you, so I don't have to.
Where was I?
I
No,
know,
wait.
that
I
was-
think.
Yeah.
Wait, that was too far. Now I learned too much about the movie. Yes, yes, that's not good.
So that's the kind of user experience that they want. That if you're in a different region, it's still going to be very responsive to write the data, read the data, right? So this is kind of simulating that. And you can, check out the kind of different latencies and why it is we move that data close to the user. Because at the moment, it's quicker in Europe for me to do those data retrievals but than for the US. But if I was in the US, then it would be reversed.
Nice.
Okay. But with, obviously, with global tables, we can serve both audiences. So they've both got fast local read and write performance.
We have a question here, and I know that we have limited time, and if you don't have time to answer it, it's okay. But we want you to know in chat that we are taking your questions here. And if I say it wrong, it's Pratyanja, a data visualization specialist in LinkedIn, wants to know, can you explain a little bit about the concepts of global secondary indexes and local secondary indexes?
Yeah, so this is normally used when you want a different copy of the data.
Yeah.
Normally we're talking about a single region here.
Right.
Okay. So you can use a global secondary index when you want to pivot your data essentially. Okay, so it's like a materialized view of the data
Okay.
that you're going to create, let's say for a GSI. So we could have a different key schema, a different partition key, and a different sort key. So we're pivoting that data, and then we can have an access pattern which uses that secondary index again. So we're optimizing for reads, so the user can have a fast read on that particular access pattern. So that's why we have those secondary indexes. We normally recommend GSIs, global secondary indexes, ahead of LSIs. They tend to be a bit more flexible. You can create and remove them at any time, whereas LSIs you have to create when you create the table.
Nice.
Okay, and you can't have an alternate partition key with that. It has to be the same as the base table.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Nice.
secondary indexes, good option when you need to support a different access pattern and you need to pivot your data.
Nice, nice. No, thank you. And that as I said, when you put your questions in chat, we want to give you that one-on-one answer, so that way you're not left all day going, "But I had this question." Really quick, I know. Again, I'm sorry to say this, we're running out of time. Is there something, in a final parting, you want to make sure that you share with the audience?
Probably just my final slide here to say, thank you. Great to be on, and. This QR code will link you to the prescriptive guidance for global tables, and I think the link's probably in the chat as well. But yeah, have a good London Summit. And
Awesome, thank you. And really quick before you get to leave, but let's say they just want to know about DynamoDB. Where can they go to for that?
So just a standard documentation,
Okay.
developer guide, probably the best place to go.
Awesome.
And there's a DynamoDB section there.
Awesome.
You can check out all the blogs we have on this. We have lots of blogs on DynamoDB.
Lots of information. Again, lots of information for you to get started and get your feet wet. And again, seems like the theme of today is self-service, serverless, cost effectiveness, and really just you getting started. So there's nothing precluding anyone from getting started today. Because all the information is out there and know how to do it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate you being on.